So I was thinking about this earlier, and I can't get over the Game Awards of 2023. I can't get over it. it, it I'm not mad that Clay Obscure Expedition won the Game of the Year. Right? That's not what irritates me. What irritates me is it won the RPG category. What irritates me the most about that is that category should have been an easy, obvious answer for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And I was thinking, like, why? Why did Expedition 33 win? Why is Expedition 33 even considered an RPG? Whenever I start thinking about that, I start noticing and marking the differences between Expedition 33 and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 whenever it comes to what they try to achieve. You know, and then I start comparing them to other known RPGs, and I think I have somewhat of an answer. I'm kind of coming to this a bit independently. Haven't really looked into it, but what Expedition 33, what its goal seemed to be. Actually, let me see how many hours I have in Expedition 33. Got my PC pulled up right here. I have 26 hours. 26 hours put into Expedition 33. I've played a lot of it. I plan on playing even more. I love this game. It's one of the best games I've played in the last, 5 years. Right? This game is amazing. What it tries to achieve is experience. It tries to give the players an experience, and it tries to it's very hard to describe. Impact and nostalgia. I think those were the two words that I eventually settled on when it comes to describing Expedition 33. And before I go into the focus for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, let me explain what I mean by this, right? So Expedition 33, whenever I say impact, if you've played this story, you know what I mean. You're going to walk away from this story thinking about it for the next week. You're going to walk away from this story with new philosophical contemplations for the foreseeable future, right? This story is going to absolutely make you think, and it's going to make you emotional, and it's going to make you connected with the characters. And it absolutely hit the mark on that. This game, I mean, very few games set out to perfectly achieve what they wanted to. This game is one of them. This game is super emotional, super impactful, which is where the word that I'm referring to comes from. And whenever I say nostalgia, right, for people that have played and that have appreciated video games for many years, or have dived into older video games, you know what I mean whenever you play this game. Whenever you're exploring the open world map, you get this sense of, oh, this is like an old school RPG. You know, this was made with love. This was made with love and with appreciation for turn-based combat games that came before it. Whenever I was playing it, I immediately thought of Final Fantasy VII, which I'm sure a lot of other people have thought of as well, considering how popular Final Fantasy VII was. The way that you interact with the open world map is very, very, very reminiscent of Final Fantasy VII. The way that it's sort of like these miniature little characters going across this open world, very reminiscent of Final Fantasy VII, and intentional. And going into these sort of HUD-based areas where as soon as you enter these cities or these portals in Expedition 33, if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII, just think of the towns in Final Fantasy VII as like the portals in Expedition 33. Whenever you go into each little area, it opens up. It opens up, and there is a lot more to do. Kind of HUD-based, but interactive. throughout the map as well. It's very, very intuitive design for the time for Final Fantasy VII whenever it came out. Mixed in an open world feel while also having in-depth setting, and a very unique setting for each and every one of them. So that's the nostalgia part of Expedition 33. It's reminiscent of old school RPGs, right? It's very reminiscent of, you know, Final Fantasy 6, 7, and 8, of Dragon Quest, of Zelda, kind of. Zelda's always been a little bit different, but I would say maybe Chrono Trigger. Anyway, before I get off on a tangent about something else, let me talk about what Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 tried to achieve. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, rather than aiming for impact or nostalgia, what it aimed for was immersion and freedom. What I mean by that? Well, whenever I say freedom, I mean you can pretty early on pick whatever you want to do. Expedition 33 has side quests, but its side quests are kind of like Final Fantasy VII's and earlier RPGs. From what I've experienced, it seems to be mainly go here, quickly go through this smaller area that has attention, but not as much of attention as the main boss battle areas. Beat this boss, and then there's your entire side quests. Whereas Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has this really intriguing main story, but it doesn't keep the player kind of locked onto the main story, and early on opens up to allow the player to go across various different side quests with various almost genres. You know, there's romance, there's horror, there's mystery, there's action, there's adventure. You know, it lets the player kind of decide what they want to do. Do you want to go start blacksmithing? Do you want to go start stealing? Do you want to go actually do a side quest? Do you want to go do the main story? It allows the player to decide. It allows the player to do what they want to do, right? And Expedition 33, the player can do what they want to do, but it's really limited to smaller, shortened side quests and quick, almost random encounter enemies. I mean, Expedition 33 doesn't have random encounter like early RPGs do, but that's outside of doing the main story. That's kind of all you have, and just it's not as focused on player freedom. Now, the other Expedition 33 isn't as focused on player freedom. Now, the other flip side of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is immersion, right? And everybody who's played Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 knows what I mean, but at the same time doesn't know what I mean. So whenever I say immersion, I am absolutely including the eating, sleeping, potion crafting, you know, blacksmithing mechanics. I'm including all of that. I'm including how it's supposed to be realistic, but I'm also including how your choices matter. Your choices in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 matter. For example, for people that haven't played the game, you can get completely locked out of an entire long, very deep, very intriguing DLC quest for committing a crime. So if you commit a crime, you get branded as a criminal, and you do like a serious enough crime, you can get completely locked out of that quest because of the public's perception. That is precisely my main meaning, I should say, whenever I say the word immersion. It feels like you are in the world. It feels like the decisions that you make actually have an impact in the world. Expedition 33, I love the game. It doesn't have that, right? Except for the end. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but the only big choice that you can make is at the end. And in that sense, it's kind of like Ghost of Tsushima. Expedition 33 is like Ghost of Tsushima, where the biggest choice you can make is at the end, and everything before then is kind of a choice made for you. I am not saying one game is better than the other. I personally, as it stands right now, I like Expedition 33 more than Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 because I finished Expedition 33. I don't know if that feeling's going to change whenever I finish Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But they are, for me, I've played most of the games that have been nominated for Game of the Year and for various other awards this year. I think those two, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Expedition 33, are cut above the rest. I think that's very clear to people that have played both of them and have enjoyed both of them, that they are a cut above the rest. But what each one tries to achieve in its RPG elements is completely different from the other. What Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 tries to achieve is it tries to make the player feel like they're in the world. What Expedition 33 tries to achieve is it tries to make the player feel like they're experiencing the world. To put it another way, it feels like I am living in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where it feels like I am watching Expedition 33. Kind of like God of War with Expedition 33 versus Oblivion, so to speak. And that sort of put me down like a rabbit hole, because how does Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 more accurately define a role-playing game than Clair Obscur Expedition 33, whenever Clair Obscur Expedition 33 drew inspiration from the original role-playing games? You know? Like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest and Zelda. How does Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 more accurately represent the definition of a role-playing game, where I am playing a role? I am playing the role of a 15th century knight in Bohemia, whereas I don't feel like I am Verso. I don't feel like I am Mael. I don't feel like I am Gustav in Expedition 33. I feel like I'm playing them. I feel like I'm making their decisions in like combat, but whenever it comes to story, I don't feel like I'm them. Whereas in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I choose the dialogue that Henry uses in the story moments. I choose his actions in the story moments. I feel like I am Henry. And the conclusion that I came to is in the late 2000s to the early 2010s, there was a shift in the RPG world of video games, the RPG genre of video games. And this is not like a concrete shift, all right? Let me just explain. For example, whenever historians talk about the classic age, the classical era versus the Middle Ages, the classical era ends in the 5th century with the fall of Rome. The Middle Ages begins in the 5th century with the fall of Rome. But if you were a person living in the 5th century, there'd be no difference to you. Right? It's just sort of like a marker to a big event that kind of divides the two. For this, I'm using Skyrim. So to explain further, before the 2010s, Skyrim came out, I think November 11th, 2011, so early 2010s. We'll just use that date. We'll use that date for an example, because Skyrim was game-changing. I think everybody who was playing video games at the time would agree. Before Skyrim, in the 1980s, 1990s, and even the early 2000s, there were the video games and the RPG. In video games, there was the RPG genre that was defined by games like Final Fantasy VII, games like Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy VIII, games like Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy is a big one, obviously. Zelda. Zelda's kind of like a unique one, but you get what I mean. Chrono Trigger, Legend of Dragoon. Personally, I'm a fan of Romancing Saga. I love Romancing Saga too. There was also Let me think. Dragon Quest. I don't know if I said Dragon Quest or not. Akira Toriyama was involved in a lot of them. I'm getting sidetracked. My point is, due to the almost lack of technology, RPGs, role-playing games, aimed to help the players step into the world and try to make the world feel alive. It tried to make the world feel alive, like they were actually, like it was actually a world out there. You know, and that's kind of what Expedition 33 is. There's so much going on, and it's so beautiful. It makes me feel like this is a real world, like an alternate universe or something like that. I don't want to get too like metacognitive or anything, but the world feels alive. It feels vibrant, and the characters in it feel vibrant. It's like I'm watching my favorite anime, or I'm watching my favorite cartoon. Earlier today I was watching Thundercats, and I felt the same sort of way that I felt about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Like, the world feels vibrant, the characters are alive. That was sort of the goal of RPGs in the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s. In 2011, we're just going to use this as a monolithic marker in the history of video games and RPGs. Skyrim came out, and while Skyrim doesn't have all of the qualities that I described or experienced in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Skyrim does have a level of player immersion that previous games didn't, and it broke it out into the wider market, because even if there were games that were like Skyrim before Skyrim came out, none of them were as popular. None of them made it to the wider market as Skyrim. And what I'm trying to get to here is, rather than the characters feeling alive and the world feeling alive, it felt like you were the character in this new world that was alive. The earliest marker for this is whether or not you decide to join the Stormcloaks or the Imperials with Skyrim. This completely changes the entire landscape of the game, and you fight genuine wars throughout it. Depending on whichever side you join, everybody's game looked different by the end. Nobody came to the sort of same exact ending point. There would have been a completely difference between one person's, how Skyrim looked for one person at the end versus how it looked for another person. And this sort of idea of player choice and freedom and immersion, I should say, player immersion, it's all sort of bumped up underneath that, is furthered through the DLC of Skyrim, Dawnguard. Whether you choose to join the Dawnguard or whether you choose to join the vampires, your entire experience becomes different. That kind of really shifted the way RPGs were approached from then on. You know, every game since then has kind of had like its own approach, but would sort of incorporate something like that. Or every like monumental RPG. For example, Red Dead Redemption 2 in 2018. That game at times felt like cinematic, felt like a movie. But whenever you were out there in the world doing the side quests, they all determined on what you did. Whether you protect, like for example, if you come up across this random person who's like running away from this gang and you try to help them, you pick them up on your horse. Whether or not you kill the gang before they are able to kill the person is an actual concern. It's not predetermined. Or whether or not you want to kill the person yourself or hand them over to the gang is an actual option. You don't have to follow this sort of set path, this sort of set experience. Witcher 3 in 2015. I don't know, I think there's like 3 or so different endings depending on the choices that you make throughout the game, you get an entirely different narrative. That's big. And it's not just a simple binary choice that you're given. It's something that is crafted throughout the entire game. And there are similar events throughout the entire game. And unlike Skyrim, you don't get to create your own character. But like Skyrim, the choices that you make in the world have an impact on the world. So it makes you feel like you are in the world. Baldur's Gate 3, 2023. You make your own character. You make your own decisions. There are so many endings throughout Baldur's Gate 3, and so many side quests. I'm not going to go into spoiler territory, but there's side quests that Baldur's Gate 3 is divided into 3 acts, and there are side quests in Baldur's Gate 3 that you are not able to do in Act 3, the final act, unless you do something specific in Act 1, the beginning, the tutorial area. So unless you save this NPC in Act 1, you're not going to meet them in Act 3, and an entire enjoyable side quest is closed permanently. And it's all determined by you. Whether or not you save this NPC, whether or not you kill this NPC, whether or not you antagonize this NPC, whether or not you leave this NPC. These choices are factored in. And as I said, one approach is not necessarily better than the other. It just depends on what the developers want to achieve. If the developers want to achieve an experience, then they're going to go for a more classic RPG route, where they experience this world. The world feels alive. The characters feel alive. You feel like you're watching a movie. You feel like you're caring about these characters. One Piece is my favorite anime and my favorite show and manga of all time. I love it. I love One Piece. Whenever I watch it, I don't feel like I am interacting with the world of One Piece, but the world feels alive. The characters feel alive. They're that well written. That is what Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has achieved. That is what God of War has achieved. That is what Ghost of Tsushima has achieved. That is what Final Fantasy VII achieved. And then there's times whenever I want to experience a world that I feel like I am in. And for a game that based its RPG elements on earlier RPGs, there is nothing wrong with it. But I do not think that it should win the best role-playing game of 2025 whenever there is a game, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that more accurately reflects this subgenre of video games in this year. Skyrim has marked the shift, and games such as Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Baldur's Gate 3 have evolved the development. They have developed the sense of player immersion from what Skyrim had created, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 did that once more. What you decide to do in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 will impact the world. And I feel and I logically come to the conclusion of that is more reflective of what a modern RPG is like. A focus on player immersion in the world, making you feel like you are in the world. You are role-playing in this world, rather than you are watching the world, rather than you are experiencing this world from a viewer's perspective. And so, while I do love Expedition 33, and I do think it is a great RPG in the classic sense, I do not think that it is indicative of what an RPG in 2025 is like, a modern RPG is like. And I do not think it deserves to win the best RPG of 2025 because it does not reflect what a modern RPG is. It reflects what older RPGs were, but not modern RPGs. And before people get this misconception that I don't like older RPGs, that's not true at all. I think it is important that games like Expedition 33 come out and reevaluate where modern games came from. It's important that they remember their roots. I do think it is also essential that we acknowledge the progress made, and we don't give the awards to games that haven't developed it. I think Expedition 33 deserved Game of the Year. I don't think it deserved RPG of the Year. Because, in its definition, RPG, a role-playing game, should have you feel like you are playing a role. And due to the technological limitations, the most that earlier RPGs could do was make the world feel alive. Now, they can make you feel like you are playing a role. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 does just that. Whereas Expedition 33 is an experience, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a world. I think Expedition 33 deserved almost every award that it won, but that one, the best RPG of 2025, deserved to go to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.